Hello and welcome to Paper Plays Julie K.
Welcome to the 8th installment of Creating with Window Envelopes. Each week I will be posting a new idea on how to create various junk journal elements using window envelopes that measure 8 5/8 by 3 5/8. But the majority of the ideas that I share with you, you will be able to modify to fit other types of window envelopes or even just basic envelope that are in your own stash. Today I'll be sharing with you another version of a double envelope flip with pockets. Previously, I believe on episode 2, I had another version, and that version looked very similar to this one right here, where I had the double window envelopes that flipped open this way. And so this I'm calling version 2, and these ones I have one horizontal and one vertical window envelope, and so they each flip. And so I have 3 samples here. And the last sample that I share with you is the one that I will be doing on the tutorial part, if you want to stick around for that. And so here is the first one that I created. And again, I'm using various scrapbooking paper that's in my stash. This time around I used a ton of scraps. And the paper pads that I used were from Kaiser Craft, and then I think the other one was maybe Authentique. I will go over them in the tutorial part of which paper I'm using. And then also the Kaiser Craft company had some ephemera pieces that matched. And so I'm just using those up. I'm using up past paper that I've had from card making, because I usually make cards every year. So I'm trying to use up some of those scraps and leftover bits and pieces on these. So these were constructed using kind of a collage method of just gluing down all the paper scraps around the window envelopes. So this one does flip open this way. They each have a hinge on them. So if it was in your journal, you would glue down the hinge, and so then it would be able to flap open. So you do have 2 flaps that would flap open, or 2 window envelopes that would flap open. Or if you wanted to, you could go ahead and glue another piece of cardstock or scrapbooking paper down to this flap and then glue it down, and then you could make even another pocket or a tuck spot. So there's different options with this one. And so again, the front, you guys can kind of just check out the different collaging and pieces. And again, you see the window envelope right there. And I just did some basic decorating on a journal card. I figured you could still journal here and of course on the whole back side. And I just added some scrapbooking paper with a little sentiment there just to add a little bit more visual interest behind the window. Some different collaging, a different little label piece, a sticker. And when this one opens up, I used scrapbooking paper that was light enough and had room to journal on, so I just left it plain. And then also here too, I collaged, this was the top piece of this scrapbooking paper, and I just collaged it down the side so that you could still even journal over here if you wanted to. And I did have another little piece that I laid right here, and I did make this into a tuck spot, so if you did want to stick something behind here, you could. And again, this one also has a journal card that you can pull out at the top. And all of my projects today, I did choose to put text paper behind there, just again as some visual interest. I like to be able to see something fun besides, like on this template one, you just see the blue, and I don't like to see that when you pull out your journaling card. So I always make sure that there's something behind there. And then on the back side of this one, I just kind of did like another little flip, but I created more space to be able to journal on. So I just did some basic collaging on the side. I just added a couple of pieces, and that's all I did on this one besides inking the edges. You just open it up and you got spots to journal on. Of course, you could add, you know, rubber stamped images or more little die cuts if you wanted. So that was the first one that I created. Then here's the second one, and this one is just kind of a mirror of this one. It flips this way in your journal. And again, it has the hinge on the back side of it. Again, just some more paper collaging and a journal card. I'm not going to pull out the journal card this time. It looks very similar to the previous one that I showed you. I'll just kind of show you all the different paper scraps and pieces that I added on that one. And then again, when you flip it open, this time I did some collaging right down here with a couple pieces. This one I did create a little notch on it, which you can do if you like the notches. And then this one too, also up here, I have a little bit of a notch. But this one I did use a little piece of that scrapbooking paper that was light enough that you could still journal on. And then I just layered up some pieces next to it. And then same with here too. This piece right here you could easily journal down on it, and then I just have some other little decorations around it. And then the back side of this one, very similar to the previous one. This one is a digital image from Tsunami Rose. A couple years ago I was on her design team, and I had some pieces left over still in my stash from that, so I just was trying to use some of those up too. There were kind of some fun little Christmas labels. And again, this one just opens up. It's very plain. It still could be decorated some more. And then the final one I'll share with you guys is this one is the one on the tutorial. So I'm just going to hold it up and not really talk about it, because I'll talk about it in the tutorial part of it as I'm creating it. But just for those of you that just want to watch the project share part of it. This is a tuck spot right there. And there's a tuck spot here too, so that could be tucked in over there. Tuck spot right here. And this one I also chose to do the same thing on the back side with just another little flip for journaling space. This one I did add a little paper strip to it. I had that sitting on my desk, so before I started filming I just added the little paper strip there just to add a little interest. But you definitely, like I said, could still add some rubber stamped images, or if you had some more cutout pieces like this, you could add some more of those there just for some more interest. And again, the little hinge where you would glue it down into your journal and use it that way. So if you are interested in catching the tutorial part of this video, stay tuned. To begin with, I'm going to go over a few basic supplies that you will need for today's project. You will need 2 window envelopes. And I'm starting off with window envelopes that measure 8 5/8 by 3 5/8. But again, you can alter this project with any size envelopes that you have, and I will be cutting these down to size. You also will most likely need some sort of cutting tools, like I have a rotary trimmer here and a scissors. You will need glue, and I'll be either using the tacky glue or glue stick, and I'm using the Scotch brand of glue stick today. And these are optional if you want to use a tab punch or a tab die cut. Also a circle punch just to create a notch in your envelopes. But again, you don't have to use either one of these if you don't want to. I'm using some white cardstock, also some textbook paper. I also have some scrap pieces of paper that I'm using as hinges. And these are just some coffee dyed paper, but you could use scrap cardstock also. I'm also using paper scraps that came from these 3 different paper collections. 2 of them are from Kaiser Craft and the other one's from Authentique. Again, I was just playing with paper scraps. I will be using a couple of stickers that look like little poinsettias. I might be using some of these border cuts. They're borders from, adhesive borders from K & Company. They're Christmas ones. I also have kind of a container here full of just miscellaneous ephemera that match those paper collections. Some of those paper collections at the back, they have all these punch out spots of stuff you can punch out. And so I've punched them all out and put them in here. And then also these companies come with like ephemera kits. And so they're all in here. They're just bits and pieces that I have left over again from the past. And so I'm just trying to use this up. I also might have a couple of pieces still left. In the past, I made a junk journal and I used some die cuts from Tsunami Rose, and I still had some of these left that kind of match this paper collection. They just have little sentiments on them. So I have been using a couple of those on projects lately. And I think that's pretty much it for what I'll be using. And so I'm going to get into the project. So I'm just sharing with you guys my basic template that I'm working from, and I'm calling this again a double envelope flip with pockets. I did a version of this earlier, so I'm calling this version 2. The first one, both pockets went up, and this one goes horizontally and one goes vertically. And so this is basically the construction of it. And then I do have a hinge on the one I'm sharing with you guys today that you could hinge down into your journal. So you could attach another piece of paper to that if you wanted to. But this is the basic construction for those of you that just wanted the basic idea. You can just see I used one of the hinges and hinged it together so it folded over. I did notch out here, so you can notch if you want. You can see the window envelopes. There are pockets on both of these, so then you can add journal cards, and of course when you flip them over you have spaces to decorate or journal on here. And then if you add another hinge that you would hinge onto your journal page, you would also have this as a spot to journal on or use in your journal. So if you want to see me complete one of these, stay tuned and I will get going on that. So one of the first things you need to do is grab your window envelopes, and you're going to need to cut them down to whatever size you want. Again, it's going to vary depending upon the size of your journal. So for the back envelope right here, I am going to, I think, cut mine down to 6 inches. You could make it longer or shorter, whatever works for you. And again, save your offcuts. You can make pockets out of these. And then, so I did 6 inches on this one. And on this other one, some of the ones that I did 6 inches. But I found that I wasn't thinking when I did those ones that my journal pages usually aren't 6 inches wide. So I'm going to cut this one down, I think, to 5.5. I just like that size better, I think. So those are the 2 envelopes I'll be working with. So after you've cut your envelopes down to size, you want to go ahead and possibly start decorating the fronts of them, which I've already went ahead and did off camera just to make it go a little bit faster today. And all I basically did was decorate the front of each of my envelopes with all sorts of different scrap papers from the paper collections that I shared earlier. And then also in each of the pockets, you can see I went ahead and cut out some white cardstock that fit inside, and I added another scrap piece of paper, and I also punched out tabs. And then also behind the window envelopes I added text paper, but you could also add scrapbooking paper or digital paper. And so for right now, I just decorated the front sides and the backs are still plain. The next step is to just decide how you want the orientation of your envelopes to go. For instance, you could have them flip this way. You could alternate them and have them flip this way. Or you could also have them flip this way. So just a matter of personal preference, which way you want to create them. And again, here was a template that we're working from, so I'm going to go ahead and do my orientation like this. If you wanted to, you could have also added the hinge, which we're going to do next. You could have added that before you decorated. What I'm just going to do is I'm going to add the hinge to the back side of this one and then hook it behind this one. And then I also have a scrap piece of paper that I'm using as a hinge. This is just some tea-dyed paper, and it's 1 inch wide, and I want to cut it down to the size of my front envelope. So I'm just going to cut it down to roughly about the same size or slightly smaller. And so this is going to create our flap to open up our window envelope. And so then what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to glue this, just half of it, down onto this side of the envelope. And I'm just going to go ahead and use some tacky glue for that. And I'm just lining the fold line up with the end of the envelope. And again, you can still open it up because we're using it as a hinge for our flap, or for the other window envelope. And you're just going to probably need to hold it in place just for a second or two before you glue the next one down. Once your hinge is firmly down, you're going to go ahead and glue your other envelope onto it. And again, you could glue it on the front side and then decorate, or in my case, I'm just going to go ahead and glue it on the back side. So on this side of the flap here, or the hinge, I'm going to put some glue. I'm going to go ahead and attach it so you can see the back side right there. And again, you might have to hold it for a second or two, or if you need to use clips or paper clips to hold it in place for a minute or two, go ahead and do that. And once it's dry, this is kind of what we have. And again, I've pre-decorated. So I'm going to go ahead and decorate a little bit on the front and then add some more items to the rest of it. And then also, the other thing I think I'm going to do right away so I don't forget to do it is because I do want to make this a double flap or double envelope flip. I want 2 flips. So to be able to have this flip open also, I'm going to need to add another hinge. So I'm just cutting down another scrap piece of paper that'll fit on the back as a hinge. And so I'm just going to glue on one side just so that it'll hinge open. And I'm just lining it up flush with the envelope, the fold part of the hinge. So now, once you've added the flap, you have some choices. If you want to go ahead and glue down like a piece of coffee dyed paper or scrapbooking paper or digital paper, you could do that. And then you would have your 2 flips to make it a double window envelope flip with pockets. Or you could just leave it as is, and if, let's say, this was your journal, you could just glue this tab down directly then onto your paper, and then it still would flip open. And again, when you're deciding on your paper sizes, you know, think about the size of your journal, because obviously this one is too wide. So if this was my journal, it would stick out quite a bit, which is okay sometimes for certain styles of journals. But just keep that in mind when you decide on the sizes of your envelopes for your journal. And so for now, I'm not going to glue anything to the back side, but I just wanted to put the flip there so that it's ready to go at a future date when I do add it to a journal. I can either glue it down directly or into my journal, or I can add another piece of paper to it. I have a couple different options. So once you've done that, then I'm going to go ahead and decorate the front. And again, like the last video, I have a lot of stuff already pre-picked out and pre-done just so it seems to go faster, or at least it goes faster for me while I'm on camera. And so I did pick out some of those ephemera pieces that I shared earlier with you guys. I did glue Santa Claus to the Christmas tree, and I also stamped the number 25 onto a circle die cut, which was just the circle punch with the 2 and the 5 in it. And I also added some poinsettia stickers to here. And what I ended up doing is, because these are on foam pieces of tape, I actually took them off of the foam and glued it directly down just so it was slightly flatter for my journal page. And so I'm just going to glue that down onto my envelope right here, I think. And then I was trying to decide, I have these border pieces, and I was thinking that I might add that behind right here and cut it down just to add a little bit more interest. I also had this little sentiment that said Christmas memories, so I'm going to glue that down, I think, right here. And I have another poinsettia flower that I'm going to glue right there. And I could put something else here, but I don't think I'm going to. So that's how I'm going to decorate the front. And then I wanted to show you how I'm going to decorate the inside real quick. So on the inside, I did cut down a piece of scrapbooking paper to fit. It is light enough that you could journal on. I like to do that a lot. If you've been watching my series, I like to have spots where you can journal. And I did make a little cluster out of some of the scrap papers and some of the ephemera pieces. And so I'm thinking I'm just going to glue that down into the corner here. So I could still journal here if I wanted to, but I might just glue down on 2 of the edges so then it would still be a tuck spot if I wanted to. I'm not going to add anything to it today, but I'm just going to leave it open so that there is a possibility of making it into a tuck spot. Or I could just glue it all down and just have a spot to journal on. So I'm going to do that right there. And then on this side, again, which I had already collaged some pieces down on, I am going to go ahead, and I have this little image of the little dolls on the sled and a little trumpet. I'm going to glue that down. I also had this word that says Christmas cheer. I think I'm going to put that up here. There was also kind of this little like postage stamp ephemera piece that I think I'm going to add just right there as a little more visual interest. And I don't know, and I'm thinking, I'm not quite sure if I wanted to try to maybe add another strip of this border piece right here or not. So I'm just keeping that kind of in the back of my head. I know there was a couple other pieces in here, but I don't think, like Santa Claus, I don't think would work that way. And all I have left is this bird one too, and I don't know if I want that one back there. I don't think I like that one for this project. I think it's just too much red. So I don't think I'm going to add anything else back there. And then I think the only other thing I'm going to do is I think I'm just going to again glue this piece down just on the side, so then I can maybe make it into a tuck. I have a couple of tags left from that ephemera stuff, and I'm just going to tuck those behind there, and I think that'll fill it up nicely. You could, if you wanted to, have used like more of a neutral paper right here so that you would still have it to journal on, but I think I'm just going to call that one good. And then the only other last side to decorate then is the back side right here, because you will see it if I make it into a flip. And so I already again pre-cut out a piece of cardstock, and then I glued on a folded piece of tea-dyed paper that you can flip up. And on the front I decorated just again some more of those ephemera pieces. And I'm just going to go ahead and glue that down on the back side. And so again, when you would flip this open, then you would have that little piece there to add some more journaling space. And so I'm going to glue all those pieces down, and then I'll come back and show you the finished project. Okay, I am back. I haven't even barely started gluing my pieces down, but there was one little quick tip that I wanted to tell you guys before, for some of you that might be newer. So these border strips that I have, they are stickers. But the one thing that I have found is when you use stickers in your journals, if you want your journals to be a little bit more archival and longer lasting, I really highly recommend that you add just a little bit of glue to your stickers when you glue them down, because I have had stickers that do come undone a year or two later after I've put them into journals. So just make sure that you add just a little bit of glue to your stickers to make sure that they stay put for longer. So I did want to pop on with that little tip or trick, just so for those of you who are new to decorating journals, that if you use stickers, I'd highly recommend adding some glue. And I'm just going to glue mine down with tacky glue. I have completed gluing down all the pieces that we talked about. The only addition that I did make was I did go ahead and add another one of those poinsettia stickers up here. And again, I do glue those down instead of using the foam tape that are included on the back of them. And the only other thought that I had that I wanted to share with you guys before I do go through the whole final thing is it still looks like it's a little empty up here, and I don't know if it would look right if I went ahead and added some sort of other embellishment and glued it down. But my thought is if you were using it in a journal, is if maybe you cut out like a little bit larger of a tag that would sit inside of here. And so then when this was closed, you'd see the top of the tag, and that would probably help your visual interest a little bit when you're looking at it. So I still might do that off camera later when I cut up some more of that paper, is I might cut a tag for in there with that die cut, because I think that would look kind of cute. You'd see a little bit of the tag peeking out above there. So I still might do that. So that was kind of my one little thought, but to show you what the finished project looks like. And then the only other thing I didn't mention either is I decided when I glued the Christmas tree down, I was going to make it into a possible tuck spot if I wanted to. So I would still have this as a tuck spot also. So if I do decide to add a different tag here, I could go ahead and add these tags right here. But then again, it would cover that part there too. But I do like the option of leaving some of these open so that you can use them as tuck spots. So I did leave that as a little bit of a tuck spot. But again, that's everything glued down and the card that pulls out. These cards, I left the whole black backside plain, but I still might go in and add some more decorative elements to the backside. Or the other option is you leave them plain until you put them in your journal and you start using your journal. And then you have some spots where you can still embellish and add things if you want. Like if you're opening up a Christmas gift, you could use some of that wrapping paper and glue it down on the backs of the tags and then journal about the gift or who you got it from or the time that you spent with that person. So again, here I layered down that little collage or a little snippet collage that I had. And again, you could make this into a tuck spot for a tag or a journal card if you wanted to, or you could just add a little bit of glue here and then glue it down flat and just use this spot for journaling. And again, on this sector here, I layered the cute little sled and left spot there so that you could add tags and make it into a tuck spot right there. And up at the top, I added the word Christmas cheer, that little poinsettia, this little collage piece right here, just to kind of finish off the look. And then again, on the back side, we still have that little hinge right here to make our final flip. And of course, then this also, you have the spot to journal on, and it would open up at the top. You could journal up here and down here, and there's still room to decorate on this if you wanted to. You could add some rubber stamped images, some more scrapbooking paper. You could add some stickers again to the bottom of it. I know I have a ton of paper still left in here, some paper scraps, so I could easily add, you know, maybe just even a border, again, going down the side, or a border across the bottom, or a border up here just for a little bit more visual interest on the inside of that. So I could still go ahead and do that if I wanted to later. So again, that is our finished project today of a double envelope flip with pockets, and that was our second version. Earlier in my episodes, I think it was episode number 2, I had a different version, and I'll be sure to link that video up in the corner at the end of this video, just so if you missed that the first time around, you can easily find it. And hopefully you enjoyed today's episode. If some of you guys want, I would love to have some feedback. If you guys prefer the last 2 episodes where I have pretty much kind of had part of my designing and decorating almost pre-done with just a few elements that I talk about and put on, if you guys like that version better, or if you like some of my earlier ones where I do step by step, just let me know. I know for me it's easier to do these last couple episodes. I don't have as much stuff to edit out because I already know that I don't have to edit out or fast forward through me gluing everything and stuff. So it saves me more time in the long run to not have to edit through some of that stuff on the video. So, and I'm sure I'll have people who prefer both, but I'm just kind of curious what your feedback is. So I would appreciate that. And again, until next time, I hope you guys all have a wonderful day and happy crafting.